We've got Brutus on the line. Brutus, can you
Yeah.
hear us? Hello.
Oh, whoa! I'm already in. That was
Yeah,
surprising.
welcome.
I just went straight from talking to the person to just right here, like, boop, you're in. Slap you on the ass and hop in.
That's
But
how we work around here.
yeah, I figured out a few interesting things while dating under COVID. For one, actually, I kind of got a surge in just like dates and stuff. And I feel a little douchey for this, but pretty much all of my first dates have been just at my house. But like,
Yeah,
there's
so
not really
the
much.
boundaries that you've been holding, or kind of the way you've been going about this, is by just going ahead and having people over and trying to keep it just the two of you.
Hello.
Hello?
Oh, sorry. Hello.
Yeah, are you hearing us?
Yep, my Bluetooth headphones just grabbed my phone out of nowhere.
Well, fair enough. I guess I just wanted to understand that basically through this whole situation, you've been, staying safe in other places, but have been allowing people to come over and are now, I don't know, dealing with some anxiety or maybe feelings of guilt around that.
Oh yeah, just I feel like I should be like a little more romantic, but at the same time, it's like because my house is kind of like my sanctuary and a place that I'm comfortable in. I feel like first dates go much better when they're just straight away at my house, though that could also just be because someone who's willing to come to my house right away is already pretty invested. I will say this, though, as a very physical person, one thing that has probably freaked me out, well, not freaked me out, but made me more anxious than it probably should have is I'm used to having sex or making out on a first date, and a lot of the time when it doesn't pan out that way, I usually never see the person again. I think part of that is just I'm very physical, so if that chemistry is there, stuff usually explodes pretty quickly.
Well, I want to make sure we're not getting too far afield. Do you feel as if the COVID and just sort of the pressure that it puts on the types of dates you're able to have and these kinds of things is sort of impacting the way that you interact with folks?
And one thing that sucks too is it's like before COVID, I could just date willy nilly, and if a date totally sucked, big deal. Or if I turned out that I didn't really like the person that much, or then somebody better came along, that would be basically what would happen. But now I have to think ahead because now it's like I have to wait 2 weeks now before I can see the other person. So,
yeah, it changes that risk level a little bit. It's kind of what we were talking about earlier. Like before you even get to that first date, like how do you choose who to spend that coin on? Because
Yeah, it
the
puts more
risk, the
pressure.
investment's a little higher. Yeah.
and it's like, and like with my date the other night, like I spent like $40 on, I spent like 40 or $50 on sushi. And like, and yeah, the date overall went pretty well, though I still have some anxieties because nothing happened. And even though she told me she liked me, I always feel like I did something wrong or I could have done something better. But luckily, I plan on just seeing her again next week. And if she does want to see me next week, then that means that she does like me, and I have nothing to worry about. But yeah, it's just like for one, there is that pressure that you want the person to like you, and that hasn't been the big problem. The big problem has just been it's just been picking out, and then how does that affect the rest of your week? Like I mentioned last time, I called. Like, if I have somebody over, all of a sudden my family has to know that I was seeing somebody, and I had that.
Privacy is really at a premium right now.
Yeah. And like on one hand, you start to kind of appreciate just physically being around somebody, and I'm a very, like I've said, I'm a very physical person. That's usually how I display intimacy, whether it's romantic or with an animal or with a family member or something. I'm the guy who gets drunk and bear hugs everybody. With their consent, of course. But
yeah, this is a pretty touch-starved time. So I guess I hear all of the pieces that you're coping with here. Like there's more pressure on a date. There's a little that adds a little bit of anxiety. You know, did it go well? Is it okay? And there's like a sense of need for it. You know, you have so few opportunities for connection. It just mounts and mounts and mounts because you're looking for some physical touch. You're looking for some intimacy, and you have so few outlets for it. So yeah, I can imagine that creates a lot of strain on a new relationship. Grace, is there any tips that you can offer on how to, you know, kind of just adapt to that, or maybe look out for that extra stress?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Brutus?
I guess one thing is 2 weeks is both longer and shorter amount of is both a longer and shorter amount of time than you think it is. So it's not the end of the world.
Especially now.
On a date and you don't really like the person. And you can sit and binge watch Netflix for another 2 weeks. Maybe if you're really on the fence, like I had to do this and I ended up not liking the person, but I will sometimes FaceTime somebody if I'm wondering. But it's also very easy to see somebody through rose-tinted glasses because you just like you.
Because you're not really there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think some of the stuff that we're going to get to too is different ways. Having someone at your house, I totally get that comfort there and the ease that comes with that. And at the same time, it's tough having to wait 2 weeks before seeing anyone else, just trying to be extra cautious about things. So some of the stuff I was going to bring up later is like the alternatives to, you know, having someone over at your house. Alternatives where you can keep 6 foot distance and both have masks on and feel, you know, that feels a little bit safer, at least for me. And again, everybody needs to set their own boundaries when it comes to what feels safe to them. But you know, some people might feel more comfortable with that than having someone over at their house, because you might not have to wait a full 2 weeks to meet someone else if you're doing it in that socially distant way.
Yeah, there's that too.
Yeah, so Brutus, I appreciate your call. I'm going to give Grace an opportunity to kind of walk us through some of those alternatives.